Let me answer your questions. First, no, you have not read something wrong. The Racing or Ping Pong podcast is back. And secondly, no, it isn't too late to discuss the Italian Grand Prix. Without further ado, I'd say welcome guys to the Racing or Ping Pong podcast. Today we're going to discuss about the Italian Grand Prix and what happened in it in detail. We are discussing not only about the race but also about everything around it and also the things which happened in the last days. And also we have crystal balls and look into the future what will happen at Mugello at this weekend. So I think it is enough talking in the podcast. It is a very long one but filled with absolutely everything, and indeed a very, very good one with good opinions, good talking points, and good hosts. I am Max, this is Racing or Ping Pong, and I missed it to say it, but here is the Racing or Ping Pong podcast. And it's also in a new structure. That's the reason why we just go right into it after the intro. Let's go! Welcome then to the Racing or Ping Pong podcast. Yes, it's back. We are going to talk about a race again in detail, and also we are talking about some news we had in the last days, months, whatever. And today I have a guy with me with who I watched the race, so he has lived through all the emotions we have all lived through at this amazing Italian Grand Prix. I thought that we take a little bit of time until we speak about the race because it was very, very emotional. Of course, it wasn't a typical race in these times. So I think that we all needed to calm down a bit and also to find time to make the podcast right now. And I've already spoken about the guy today. I have Davide with me and we are going to speak about the Italian Grand Prix news and everything else. Hello Davide, how are you?
Max, hi everyone. I'm good, and I can't wait to start this podcast. You know, a lot of things to talk about, especially in the last days. We've been receiving a lot of news, and yeah, what an amazing race in Monza. We lived that together, and it was amazing. So yeah, can't wait to start.
Yeah, I also can't wait to start. And with what we're going to start, that's the first question. And the first question is going to be, what are our thoughts on the switch from Sebastian Vettel to Aston Martin for 2021? It was the big news in the last days. Sergio Perez got kicked out of Racing Point, and although it wasn't planned to get Sebastian Vettel, he will be racing for the rebranded team next year. Davide, what were your first impressions when you've read the news of the switch from Sebastian?
It was a big news indeed. Actually, a lot of people were expecting that, but it completely came out of the blue. It was astonishing. Sebastian Vettel is four-time world champion, so he will drive for an historical team, Aston Martin, in 2021. Actually, I'm happy to see Vettel next year, because he's struggling a little bit in his career at the moment, so he can jump back and maybe score some good points and maybe fight for something, maybe for some podiums. As we see in the Racing Point, it's very competitive this year. So yeah, I'm very happy to see the German in the next season. And what you think about Perez leaving the team? Actually, if you remember well, he saved the team in 2018.
Yeah, I was a bit sad at first because he was racing with that team for 7 years. He has been at the team. I think no driver has been there for a longer time at Racing Point for India, or however you want to call it. It seems like they're changing their name every 5 years. But yeah, I think that it is pretty sad indeed, because Perez is a point-scoring machine. He is a very good driver. He had his highs, he had his lows, and he has a career which is very astonishing to look at. He raced at McLaren, gained some experience with a world champion together, and also next to Nico Hülkenberg, he always showed an impressive job. Also next to Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, he was always the better one of the both, and I think that he would even be ahead of Lance Stroll in the championship if there wasn't the thing with the COVID thing and him not being able to race for 2 races. But yeah, it is a bit shocking too. He also was very surprised that he got kicked out of the team. No one has told him before that they are going to plan to do this move, so I think they haven't treated him the way he deserved it after 7 years. But also him saying that it isn't sad and that he wants to look back at the time and want to move on is a positive thing, I think. There are other drivers I could think of that would react differently. So yeah, I'm very interested what the future brings for Checo, because he is one of the best drivers on the grid, also a very underrated driver sometimes, and I think that he deserves a spot in Formula 1, and if not, I would be pretty interested in what he's going to do in the future. What do you think? What will Checo do next year?
Yeah, it's not easy now for Checo, because I don't think he has a plan B. And as a driver in Formula 1, you always need to have one, because anything can happen. So I think that he deserves another chance in another team, maybe Haas or even Red Bull, even if it's a little bit difficult in my opinion, or I don't know, Alfa Romeo maybe. I hope to see him on the grid, because as you said, he's a little bit underrated sometimes, even though he's always been ahead for quite sometimes. He's been ahead of his teammate, and he's a very good driver. So I hope he will remain on the F1 grid, and he can surely show what he can do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point, but I also have a little bit of a fear when I look to the future for Checo, because last year we had that same situation with Nico Hülkenberg, kind of, that they said, yeah, Nico, we have Esteban, we have Daniel with a contract, so you're not available for us for 2020. So go search yourself something, and then he couldn't find a seat. And I fear that could potentially also happen to Checo, because we have some seats available, like half the grid hasn't got a contract for next year. And there are still several seats available, for example, also at the top team with Red Bull, or also at Haas, Alfa Romeo, they still have seats available. But I also think, like, he raced at Racing Point this season and also finished in very good positions multiple times. He couldn't score a podium this year, but I think this is only a matter of time and for a good race, because Racing Point is one of the breakout teams this season. And it would be a very big step back if you would join like Haas or Alfa Romeo. And there's also some very, very good Formula 2 drivers who are aiming on that seats. So yeah, it's going to be very, very critical for him. I think the best choice for him would be Red Bull, but Red Bull is not known for taking drivers out of not out of their academy. The last driver I think they've taken who wasn't in the academy was David Coulthard, and it was at the very beginning. So yeah, they're not known for that. And also you have Max Verstappen there, and no one wants to drive next to Max Verstappen, I think, because he is the guy at the team. So yeah, Checo has some seats available, but I don't think that these seats are really a good thing. Do you think that it will be a step back, definitely, or he should do that to still stay in Formula 1, or should he rather just go and close the chapter F1, just take another seat in another series where he will probably get a better one?
If we look at the teams in which he can go at the moment, it's a step back for sure. But it can bring some money, so he can help the team, maybe with the sponsors. And yeah, the main problem for Checo, in my opinion, is that, as you said, young drivers from Formula 2 are aiming for a Formula 1 seat, and a lot of team principals like Mattia Binotto or even Helmut Marko, I think they said that Mick Schumacher and for Ferrari and Tsunoda for Red Bull are ready for a Formula 1 seat. So it's not easy for Checo to find the seat, but that in Formula 1 the money are very important. So Checo can bring a lot of money, and the teams, of course, they are looking for strong drivers, very fast drivers. Checo is one of them, as the Formula 2 as some Formula 2 drivers, but he can bring some money that can surely help the team. Yeah, if he will go to us or Alfa Romeo, I think it's going to be a step back for his career.
Yeah, also the Ferrari engine, we are not knowing what will happen next year. I mean, no one expected that Ferrari is going to be so bad after one season. I mean, they haven't had that really good season, that season that they have looked for, the championship. They've never achieved that since 2007 with Raikkonen for the drivers. In 2008, I think, was the last Constructors' Championship from Ferrari. So I don't think that he will be in a good car the next year. But he is a very good midfield team driver, so maybe he can stretch something out of the car. Maybe also Sebastian Vettel. It will be very interesting to see what they both can achieve in those cars. Moving on, we had spoken about Yuki Tsunoda in Red Bull and AlphaTauri. That brings me to the next question, because we had a very, very shocking switch mid-season last year, with Pierre Gasly being demoted to AlphaTauri and Alexander Albon, after just having been in F1 for half a year, being taken up to Red Bull, to the fury of also Daniel Kvyat, who thought, yeah, give me my second chance. I mean, Albon hasn't got the experience, and now Kvyat seems to be the one who is really in the danger seat at the moment when it comes to the Red Bull teams. Yeah, what happened from then on was just magical. I mean, Albon is struggling next to Max Verstappen, like Gasly did. And Gasly himself is just doing his job at his best. He had so many low moments. He has lost one of his best friends in Antoine Hubert. He has also got his house robbed in the last weeks. Also, in general, the demotion to AlphaTauri was not a thing that you want to have as a driver. But he always looked up. He achieved his podium. He achieved his first Formula 1 win. And Albon, meanwhile, hasn't even got a podium in a top team car. And some also said, yeah, Gasly back to Red Bull, is that an option? And Helmut Marko said, no, he isn't in consideration for the seat. In my opinion, I have to say that I think it is a good thing, because Gasly at AlphaTauri is in the position of the clear leader at the team. He is in a position of, yeah, he won the race. He is outscoring his teammate everywhere. I think today Kvyat has outscored him in qualifying for Mugello, but that was the second time in the season that Gasly was slower than him. But Gasly is like completely rushing through it and bringing the results. Kvyat is not. And at Red Bull, he would be the one next to Max Verstappen, and the car would be very difficult to drive, because it's like a driving style from Max Verstappen which no other driver on the grid has. So I think it wouldn't be a good switch either. But do you think that Gasly to Red Bull would have been an option for 2021, or do you think it is better to stay at AlphaTauri, or maybe also to search for other adventures out of the Red Bull bubble?
I think that for 2021, Gasly in Red Bull could be an option. I mean, if I were in Gasly, I would finish this year in AlphaTauri, then I try again in Red Bull, even though, I mean, next to Max Verstappen, it's not easy, but he improved a lot since he left Red Bull last year. So I think he can now up to the challenge and try to beat Max Verstappen. It's not an easy decision to make, because, as you said, he's the leader in AlphaTauri and he achieved the podium and the win last week. But I think he needs to try to go to Red Bull, to a top team, because AlphaTauri won the race, but thanks to the circumstances. Red Bull, he can actually win week by week, race by race. The car is it's very competitive, and yeah, Albon and Kvyat are risking, because Albon scored 2 podiums and he was unlucky. But he's not very, very close to Max in terms of pace. I think that in 2021 we'll see Pierre Gasly in Red Bull, and I think Kvyat will maybe retire, and Albon will go back to AlphaTauri maybe.
Oh, yeah, then we already have a prediction for 2021. My prediction for the whole Red Bull and AlphaTauri seats would be that I think that Pierre Gasly will stay at AlphaTauri. He will stay the leader. because he has, in my opinion, no real reason to give that position up, because I don't think that there is anyone at the moment who can get him in danger in that position. Kvyat not, and also I think that Kvyat will indeed retire or even switch to another team, but the same thing like for Paris. I think they will take up Tsunoda, because Tsunoda is showing incredible results in Formula 2. For Colin, he's doing a good job. I don't know how it's looking for him with super license points and stuff, but I think that he will definitely be in a shot for this thing, for the seat at AlphaTauri for next year. And for Kvyat, he has gotten so many chances. He was out of the sport, he was in the sport, he was demoted, he was promoted. It was like ups and downs, but he could never really deliver. Also, when he was at Red Bull, he couldn't score these amounts of podiums that, for example, Daniel Ricciardo has scored. He hasn't improved that much. He's still young with 24, but I think there's nothing more to stretch out from him. So yeah, he hasn't shown the results he was able to show. So I think his time in Formula 1 will be over for 2021, and they will take Tsunoda. But I think the Red Bull will either stay with Albon, although I think it's not the best thing for Albon. He is also, I think, like 24, 25, 23, something like that. So he's not that young as, for example, a George Russell is, or also Charles Leclerc. So he's like not the talent anymore. Maybe they're also deciding to kick him out one day and take another driver from outside, like Ferrari did with Sainz. But yeah, let's wait and see what will happen in this topic. Let's wait and see also what will happen at Williams. I think this season is a season they can be happy with. They haven't scored a point yet, and also in some qualifying sessions they are still in 19th and 20th and completely out of competition for good position at the front. Like for example, also in qualifying for the race we're going to talk about in a bit. Yeah, the Williams family has stepped away from Formula 1 after I think like over 40 years it were, with Frank Williams and also with his daughter then Claire Williams. It's just a rare thing in these days that a family owns a team and that the team is really family ruled. We have that in Formula 2 still with Carlin. So it's very sad to see them stepping away. I've always liked Frank and Claire Williams. The team had something for me. It's not only one of the most traditional teams, but it's also one you have to like, because they never gave up. I mean, look at the last seasons. From I think 2016 was still a good one, but 2017, 18, 19 they were like going down, and it was like just a nightmare. But they've always said, yeah, we are going to get back, and also 2022 the new regulation changes might get them back to higher positions. So yeah, what were your emotions when you've read the news of Claire Williams surprisingly deciding to step away after Italy?
Of course, it was a very sad news. I got the goosebumps as well. I'm young, so I didn't see the success of Williams, but the story, we all know the story, so it's a very sad news. Luckily, Williams will stay in the sport until 2025, and yeah, as you said, they always fought and that they will get back the top, because that's the spirit of Formula 1. Luckily, they're struggling. This year we've seen some improvements, luckily, and we may see them scoring some points next year. Actually, I hope they will score some points next year. Also because they have a very talented driver, which is George Russell, and if he can have a competitive car, at least for the midfield, he can show his real talent. And so yeah, I hope they will get back on top.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, George Russell is really one of the most talented drivers on the grid. Of course, he hasn't got the car to show that. But it's today in Mugello at the qualifying, he has set his 30th win in qualifying against his teammates, 30-0 against both combined Latifi and Kubica. Of course, Kubica was another thing, because I think it was like more about him being back and impressively still he was 2 seconds back in qualifying, but I think he was still driving better with that injury on his arm than normal live people would do, or even also some other racing drivers. So that's still a very impressive thing. But yeah, also what I asked myself when I looked onto the whole Williams topic, they have a new team principal. I think Simon Roberts he was called. He was in the team before in another role, I think, as I've read it. But yeah, the Williams family is away. Doralton Capital has taken over the team. Do you think that the Williams team name will stay, or do you kind of fear that Doralton will say, yeah, it's our team now, let's change the name, we don't give a shit on the history, it's our team now, we can decide? Do you think that they will do that, or do you think that they still respect all the tradition and all the legacy that Williams has?
Yeah, of course. I think that everyone hopes that the Williams name will stay, and yeah, Dorrington Capital. Sorry. I hope they will understand that the history of Williams is amazing, and I hope they will understand to keep the name. But yeah, I fear that it's going to happen the complete opposite. I think they will name team differently because it's a very having a team in Formula One with your name, it's something very important. Speaking about money, and that's what they want. They want to earn money, but I think that the Williams name deserves to stay in Formula One. And yeah, what you think about that? Do you think they will change the name, or they will keep the Williams name on the car?
I think they will keep it, because Williams, although they are not achieving the results they once achieved in their history, still I think if we ask our parents when they are motorsport interested and say, yeah, Williams, they will all think about these glorious times from Williams with Nigel Mansell, Red 5. Also today's Red 5 has bought one of the cars. So apparently it has been a very big name. And also, for example, also Ferrari, they can struggle for 10 more years, but still the name Ferrari is so big, and yeah, also connected with so much history and so much achievements and incredible wins, that it will forever stay as something traditional and positive. I think, for example, yeah, we have like 3 names or also maybe 4 with Red Bull on the grids, where you directly think of success in Formula One, which are Mercedes, Williams, Ferrari, and also, for example, Alfa Romeo. So Williams is really a name where you can be proud of to have that team, no matter how good it is, because everybody will never forget these big times. It's also like for drivers, like for teams. So yeah, I think they will keep the name Williams, and I also hope that, because I like that team very much.
Yeah, it's an historical team, so names remain. If the name remains, it's going to be awesome. I hope they will understand that they need to keep it, the history of Formula One.
Yeah, and also, for example, Renault got renamed for 2021 into Alpine F1 team. But Renault is something else. I mean, Renault is an iconic brand. There's no question about that. But the Renault team name has just been Dell from 2016 on, and not for 40 years. So apparently, that's. I hope that Williams will not suffer the same that, for example, the Sauber team suffered, where they said, yeah, Alfa Romeo, although Alfa Romeo is also an amazing name. But yeah, I really hope that the name stays long, although the family isn't anymore. But I think they will still enjoy the racing in Formula One. Also, speaking about Williams, we had a driver from them, a young academy driver, driving for them in Free Practice 1, which is the Israeli Roy Nissani. He's racing for Trident in Formula 2. And that also brought me to the question, we have some F2 drivers and driver academies from Formula 1 teams. We have, for example, when I just think about Mercedes, they have Ocon still, who's currently at Renault. but then also Esteban Gutierrez is also connected with them, although he isn't a young driver. But yeah, also Ferrari. Of course, Schumacher, Arlott, Schwartzman, that trio is outstanding there. I think Armstrong and Alesi are not in that position that they can be important for Ferrari in the future, sadly. Then we have Haas also with Delatres and Fittipaldi, and also Red Bull with De Rovere, with Tsunoda. And so also Williams with Tictum has made some very interesting team radios today. And yeah, Jack Aitken, Ronnie Sani. Do you think that apart from the Ferrari guys, a driver from Formula 2 in a F1 driver academy still has a chance to move up? Like, for example, a Jack Aitken has been a consistent Formula 2 driver, but kind of has suffered from Alonso switching, or also Lundgaard, Zhou. Do you think that anyone apart from the Ferrari guys has a chance to step up in the future?
Of course, the comeback of Alonso, it's not good for the young drivers, and actually a lot of people complained about old drivers coming back or not leaving the sport, like for example Raikkonen. And I think that maybe Tsunoda has a possibility, as we said before, for AlphaTauri. He's doing very, very well in Formula 2. And I think that maybe one of Williams' driver in Formula 2 are going to step up to Formula 1, because I don't think that Latifi is performing well enough. I think they will try to change something. Maybe Jack Aitken or Nissany will have a shot in Formula 1, maybe. But yeah, apart from them, maybe as you said, the Ferrari drivers, I think they will be in Formula 1, at least Schumacher, I guess, and Noda and Aitken maybe. These are the three names which, in my opinion, are going to be in Formula 1 next year. And what do you think?
Yeah, I've just opened up the list of Williams Driver Academy drivers to be sure. And we have Jamie Chadwick, Dan Ticktum, Roy Nissany, and Jack Aitken, who has switched from the Renault Academy. And yeah, you've mentioned Williams, that a Williams driver, apart from the Ferrari one, is likely to step up in 2022, of course, because Latifi has a contract for next year, where I think money is a big thing. But now the team is sold. Now they have another owner of the team who has that money with the open capital. So they're like not forced to keep Latifi because of money. So they can go wild. They have a driver academy. They can get up. They can really get up the drivers. I think Jamie Chadwick, I've not followed her too much, but I think it's still a long way. Dan Ticktum also, he had a long race ban, I think 1 or 2 years, where he wasn't able to race, and also he is also criticized a lot. I don't think that he's a net shot out. Ronnie Sani has done some great jobs also in Formula 2, although he's racing for Trident. But I think Jack Aitken is really also my bet, and I would think it would be pretty cool. I mean, this guy has waited in the Renault Academy for so long, then the seat was open for next year, and then Renault just said, yeah, there's like just no real plan with you. They preferred taking Ocon from Mercedes than taking their young academy drivers, which apparently is a very, many people have really not understood that move, which is understandable from both ways. It's positive and negative. But yeah, I think also that Jack Aitken will step up, and we finally see WTF1 on an F1 car. That will be amazing.
I agree with you. Jack Aitken will step up in Formula 1.
Yeah, for 2022, I am with you in this topic. So, we are shortly before coming to the Italian Grand Prix, and the Italian Grand Prix also had a very interesting question which was asked afterwards, concerning the win from Pierre Gasly and also the restart. We had, I think it was the first ever time in Formula 1, that we had a standing start after a red flag. And then we saw Lance Stroll in P2, Gasly P3, and also I think the Alfa Romeos were behind that. When are we ever going to see that again in the future? Well, I don't know. We never know what's going to happen, especially after that race. But there was also the question of, shall F1 bring reserve grids into the regulations for the future? What is your opinion on that? Reserve grids in Formula One, is that the future, the revolution to really get the racing close again, to give midfield teams even more the chance to win, and take away a bit of the pace and the chances of winning that constantly from Mercedes and co. What are your thoughts about that idea?
I think trying that would be pretty cool. I think it's you need to try and change to give the possibility to other teams to maybe score podiums or have more exciting races. Even though I've read some posts of people saying that the reverse grid would be a nice idea, but we didn't see many overtakes in Monza, which is true. But maybe it would be different on another track, where you can overtake more. And if you think about Monaco, maybe if you start with a reverse grid, you can have, I don't know, maybe Williams or Alfa Romeo scoring a podium, or you can have a lot of accidents happening because top drivers try to overtake lower cars. I think, in my opinion, Formula One should try that reverse grid. Maybe they could try it this year because it's a weird season, this one. Or maybe for some races they could try it and see how it goes. But changing is always good in my opinion. So they should try. What do you think? Will it bring more exciting races, or it's going to be the same with Mercedes or a top team winning?
So first of all, I really liked your quote saying that changes are always a good thing, especially in Formula One. I totally agree with that sentence, but I kind of have mixed views onto that topic, because on one hand you've mentioned that top team drivers are on risk of crashing because of midfield drivers. We've also seen that with Charles Leclerc last year in Monaco, where he was at the back and then he was storming through and collided, ending his race and still letting him wait for Monaco finish in his career, which is very sad. But yeah, that's another topic. I think that I would rather say I'm against that idea, because I kind of have that feeling that the top team drivers won't be very happy with that. And although they've all signed the Concord agreement to connect them to F1 until 2025, I think they still will say, yeah, we're totally against it. And maybe F1 is also risking to lose some top teams through that. Because if I, for example, would be in the position of Mercedes, I would say, yeah, they're forcing us to start 20th, although we have qualified very well. And I think that also in qualifying there could be weird moves happening with the top teams, like not being interested in setting up new lap records, although they could, just going slowly because they know, yeah, we want that pole for next race to just pull away because we have the quickest car. And if that happens, it will be a total nightmare and the idea would have failed incredibly. But on the other hand, I think it's also worth a try. We had that revolution in qualifying, I think in 2014 or something, where they said, yeah, every 1 minute 30 or something, the slowest driver is out. That was a big fail, so they said, yeah, we're going to cancel that after I think already 2 or 3 races. Wasn't a good idea to try that out. But it's worth a try to see what happens. But it's also very difficult in terms of the championship. If Mercedes, for example, will then lose the championship by some points, they will say, yeah, it was because of that reserve grid. So it's worth a try, but you either have to try it and completely everyone has to agree with it, or you just don't risk it, because the fastest car is, in my opinion, the car that deserves to win. And although it would be cool to see the slower cars fighting for wins, it won't also be a very deserved championship then, because the drivers deserve to be champion after they deserve to win the title. That's what we had in Formula 1 for over 70 years. So I think it would be cool to see what will happen, but I think that would be nothing for me to see the reserve grid with an eye on the top teams. Although I think that the images of, for example, as you said, Williams scoring a podium, I would also say, yeah, I want to see that. But to be realistic, I don't think that it is an option. And also, I think Formula One itself said that it isn't.
Yeah, and actually, you're right. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the qualifying session. They should change that as well, because if they want to start first, they can. No, I don't say crash. I wouldn't say crash, but they could go slowly and get a P20, so starting P1 on the grid. So they should change also other things, for example, the qualifying. Yeah, maybe I think I agree with you. It's worth the try, and but as you said, Formula One is not really into it, and I don't think they will try it.
Yeah, we have that reserve grid scenario in Formula 2, but that's also only the top 8 which are switched around. And in Formula 2 it's something else, because the cars are identical. There's no... Of course they are like top teams still, because some teams are working harder than others, some are having better drivers than others. But in Formula 2 it's still very equal, and not... there aren't the gaps that we see in Formula 1. What we saw in Formula 1 was a very, very exciting and interesting 2020 Italian Grand Prix, where we're returning to Italy for this weekend for the first ever Tuscan Grand Prix, and also celebrating the 1000th Grand Prix for Ferrari in their F1 history, which is an incredible number. If you take into account that Formula 1 has just celebrated their 1000th race, I think, last year in China. So Ferrari is in there for a long time, longer than any other team, and so I think it's also very good that Formula 1 itself say, yeah, we're returning the safety car into a red car, we're naming the Grand Prix in honor of Ferrari. That's a really honourable thing, but we're first of all not looking forward, that's what we're going to do later on, but we're going to look back at the Italian Grand Prix. Davide, we've watched the race together. I've literally never seen such a race in my life, where we had the pit lane being closed. That's one of the rarest things I think that we can see in Formula 1, and we kind of only see it at some particular circuits. We had a red flag for the first time since years. It had everything but the expected. So if you look back onto the race, which is a bit more than, or a bit less than a week ago, what are your impressions on the race still?
Yeah, we literally had everything, and yeah, we watched the race together, and it was amazing. It was everything wasn't going to as planned, so it was a great race, and yeah, a lot of emotions, especially seeing Gasly on the podium, on the highest step of the podium, with his trophy. Thinking about, I don't know, many things. I guess his career, his last 18 months, about Antoine Hubert. But yeah, overall the race was literally amazing, and we've really seen the real what Formula One can really show. And yeah, I think we will have to wait a lot, since we can have a race like that. It was maybe the best race this season, of course, and maybe the best race in, I don't know, of the last 10 years maybe.
Yeah, from the results, definitely. I mean, of course Mercedes win so often, and of course these wins mean a lot to them because it's hard work which is paid out. But if a midfield driver like Gasly wins such a race, so unexpected, starting 10th and just rushes through, keeps focused and drives in the lead for so many laps in an AlphaTauri, then to see the emotions, it's like just everyone had goosebumps after seeing all these emotions. I mean, if Mercedes win, they're celebrating that, but if, for example, AlphaTauri wins, it's something else. The whole team is going crazy, even if it's just a podium, but they have just won. Pierre Gasly asked, what did we do? They have just won a race. It's so unbelievable to say that still. But yeah, Pierre Gasly is a race winner, and you could just see what it meant to him. And I think Italy as the track itself and as the race itself has always been a very entertaining race in terms of, yeah, it is a great track and it has some great history, but it's not only a track where everybody says, yeah, there's not much overtaking, but it's really one of the most emotional races. 2019 was one, then the last race, so there's always a thing I look up to, and yeah, I'd also rate it as the race of the season. Austria was a very good one, still, to see also Lando score his first podium in F1, which nobody would have thought before. But also the thing with Gasly, as you've mentioned, the last 18 months for him have just been a roller coaster, and then to come back to Spa at a race where one of his best friends has lost his life a year ago, to see Gasly standing there off the radio laying down flowers, it was really emotional. And then just 10 days later, you see him at the peak of his career. That is just, I mean, if I am asked to show someone what Formula One is all about, or to hold a presentation at school where they ask me, yeah, you have 1 minute time, just show us videos to show how good Formula One is, I will really take these two races with an eye on Pierre Gasly, because that is like the emotional part of Formula One, which we all love. Gasly also got voted as driver of the day afterwards. I think it's deserved. There were many candidates for this award, let's call it like that, but he has just kept focus from P10 all over up to P3 at the restart. Then he had Stroll in front of him and Hamilton, who was out of competition already back then, because everybody knew that there was this penalty for Hamilton, which we are also going to speak about in some minutes. But yeah, the only thing Gasly had to do was to overtake Stroll and to keep ahead of the cars behind, and he did so. He did all he did all he could do. There was nothing he could do better. And pace-wise, I mean, his fastest lap was a 1:24.0. Gasly was indeed quicker. Also, Stroll was quicker. Bottas was quicker. Ricciardo, so many cars behind him, but he still kept his foot down and drove an amazing race. But he got voted driver of the day. But is he deserved as a driver of the day in your opinion? And who else were the candidates in your opinion could have won this?
I think the driver of the day was really deserved, and I think I would have voted him as well. Yeah, as you said, there were many candidates for that award, but yeah, we've spoken about the race, and that he led the race in an amazing way. We said it was easy, but as a driver, it's not easy at all. Yeah, you have to do everything right, and he did it. Yeah, I think he deserved it, and I think the other driver that we could have voted was maybe Carlos Sainz. He was very close to taking the victory, just 4 tenths behind Gasly. But yeah, it was the best day for Gasly to win the race, so I think he really deserved that award.
Yeah, I think there's no question on. Yeah.
Would you say the same? I mean, would you do you think that Gasly is the driver of the day, or would you think another driver deserved that award?
So Gasly is fully deserved for me too. I think there's no one who could say he doesn't deserve it. Although there are other candidates, so in these moments I always wish I could vote for more than one driver. Yeah, you've mentioned...
Decision.
What?
It's not an easy decision.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision at all at that race, because it had everything. And also, yeah, you've mentioned Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton has set the fastest lap, but Sainz was the second quickest car on track, so he was really quicker than Gasly. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame for him. After the race, he said, "I don't know if I should cry or if I should be proud," because of course he achieved the podium in a McLaren, when you see where McLaren was some years ago in these times of Baton and Alonso and Van Dorn, they weren't in these positions of scoring wins at all, and now they're constantly fighting for the podiums and also benefiting from Ferrari struggling much, and they've really, stepped up and also brought back McLaren to where it belongs. And of course, it is a shame that he didn't win, because I think everybody would also be happy with Sainz winning. He's in Formula 1 since 2015. He's a driver who's always performed, who has also had many ups and downs, who was also at Red Bull, then decided to switch to Renault, and now he's at McLaren and fighting for the podium. And I think he really deserved that. He was also a very good driver around that, but I think Gasly or Sainz, I really couldn't decide on who was the driver of the day for me. But to bring in other names than Sainz and Gasly, I think you can also say that Lewis Hamilton kind of could have deserved it, because it's called driver of the day, it's from the driving. Of course, it was a little bit of a misunderstanding and a shame that he got a penalty. It was not really a clever thing to do from both Hamilton and Mercedes. We all don't know who really was at fault there. There was an X at the end of Parabolica. As I rewatched it, there were even two which were placed. There's also like a report where you can see, they have been placed. So that wasn't a clever thing to do. But in the end, he kept focused. What is very, I don't think that Hamilton is like the driver who's keeping focus when he's at the back. I mean, we had that at Hockenheim, where he was also struggling at the back, and he said, retire the car, I don't want. I don't see a point when I'm not going to have the chance to win. I'm not going to really give it everything. But he did give it everything, and that's the thing I kind of up high. And he still managed to finish seventh. Of course, he had the quickest car. It is an easy task, but he still made smooth overtakes and did a great job. So for me, he's also up there. Then when we also go through the standings again, we also have Nicholas Latifi, who stayed up and focused, and also we have Lando Norris, who sadly didn't achieve the podium. He was looked to achieve. He was kind of a victim of the red flag and all these situations around, but he also kept his foot down and drove a good race. But to come to an end with this section, I think for me, drivers of the day, either Sainz or Gasly, but I don't want to decide, because Gasly or Sainz, I think both would have deserved that win. It was really amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe I would give driver of the day to Gasly, just for what he's been through these last 18 months, as we said before. It's very hard to decide between Sainz and Gasly. I completely agree with you with Hamilton being one of the best drivers on Sunday, because he's always, complaining when he's behind, when he's at the back, but actually he always pushes the car to its limits, and he made a very good recovery.
So coming from a tough decision of the driver of today to another tough decision about the loser of the day. That award isn't there, sadly, because I think there would be great memes around it. But the loser of the race, and there are several candidates. I don't think that they are proud to be candidates of that. But I think I also would place Lewis Hamilton in there. I think he deserves to be driver of the day for the second stint, and also for the first a bit. But in general, he was just a loser of the race. I mean, he qualified on pole. He did the quickest lap. He was 1 second faster in the race than anyone else. He was on his way to win, and in the end, he finished 7th and completely messed it up. Only 2 drivers did that mistake with driving into the closed pits, and he was one of them. That's clearly a loser also for me. Then we also have 2 different two other teams, which I can count up there. One is Red Bull, clearly. Albon just finishing in 15th when no one knew what is going on there, why he isn't pushing through these midfield teams. He finished behind an Alfa Romeo, a Williams and a Haas, or actually behind both Williams. And if Giovinazzi wouldn't have got the penalty, Albon would have been in last in a Red Bull, which is a clear shame. And also wasn't the best thing for him to happen. And that was kind of the chance. Yeah, Verstappen is out and he couldn't deliver. Of course, at Austria it was kind of the same, but at Austria it was very unlucky with Hamilton there. But now he really had the chance and nothing hindering him, and he couldn't take it. He was happy with P9 in qualifying. Even his teammate couldn't understand why. So that race was really not the best for Albon. Then also we have Ferrari, not in particular the drivers. I think Leclerc and Vettel didn't do many things wrong. They just tried to do the best out of the car, which isn't competitive this year. But Ferrari in general, I mean, it cannot be true that Sebastian Vettel suffers a brake issue in this way at such a track like Monza with high-speed corners, and he was very lucky in the end that it was at turn 1 where you can just go straight. When it would have been at another corner, I think it would have been way more worse. And so I think I would also say Ferrari definitely up there, and also Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon, because Renault at Spa they showed great pace, and they qualified higher than actually Gasly, for example, and could have gone for better results, and they just finished in 6th and in 8th, which still are good points, but it's not that what they could have extracted out of the car. And a little loser for me is also Alfa Romeo. They were so much ahead at the restart. Of course, Antonio had to still come in for the penalty, but Kimi just had no chance in that car. It's really not competitive, but I think it was more about the car, not about the performance. So to come to a conclusion, loser of the day, it's another tough decision, but I would give it to Ferrari 100%. 2019 they were celebrating at Monza, and 2020 I think they could just sit there and cry.
I completely agree. I'd go with Ferrari as well. You know, home Grand Prix and DNF, both cars. One for the brake failure, and the other one, cars completely lost it on the last corner. Both due to maybe old tires, and both because the car it's very difficult to drive. Yeah, I'd go with Ferrari as well, 100%.
Yeah, I think there's also, with regards to that it was their home race, there's like no bigger loser. Although there are also teams like Red Bull struggling. I mean, Alex Albon, with that result he's achieved at Monza, to still not be the one everybody is speaking about negatively is so lucky for him in the end. So yeah, let's come from a current Red Bull Junior to an older Red Bull Junior. He finished P2, best result of his career, second podium of his career. And we've talked about that Gasly Sainz situation a bit before. And just to ask you a simple question, could Sainz have won the race in the situation if everything would have happened like it happened? And how McLaren could have won it in a more easier way and could have beaten Gasly?
I think that McLaren were looking very good. You know, we also thought about McLaren 1-2. Yeah, they've got the race ruined by the red flag. With Hamilton having a 10-second penalty, stop and go penalty, they were looking very good. You know, they could have scored a podium. They could have achieved the win for sure, and maybe a 1-2 finish. And so yeah, maybe they are also the losers of the day. But yeah, overall a great performance from them. I know they wanted the victory. Also Sainz, speaking to his mechanic, he said that he wanted the win. But yeah, the car wasn't maybe quick enough to close the gap with Gasly and overtake him. Yeah, Sainz said that he needed maybe one more lap, and maybe it was true. But yeah, overall, I think for them, seeing the last few years, it was a great great race and a great result. P2 and P4, a lot of points. They are sitting very high on the standings, the championship standings. So I think they should be happy with that result.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, P2, P4, for a team like McLaren in this situation, there's nothing to say negative to it. Of course, they had the chance to win. That's no doubt. They could have won it easily. From pace on, they were quicker than Gasly, or at least Sainz was a lot quicker. And Sainz felt really comfortable all weekend long. I mean, he finished third in qualifying. McLaren was very surprising there. Always up there with the pace. So everybody kind of knew that McLaren is in consideration for a podium, that they can win it in the end. Nobody has fought it. But yeah, indeed. I also think that they've lost it at the red flag. You couldn't... I mean, let's quote Sebastian Vettel. I've got bolts, but none of them is crystal. So I think that also the McLaren team has bolts, but none of them was crystal and could foresee what's going to happen with that whole Magnussen-Leclerc situation, which caused the safety car on the red flag. So yeah, I think the positive thing for Gasly was that he was pitted before McLaren, that he went onto new tyres, overtook them, did an undercut he didn't plan to do. I don't think that he wanted to undercut the McLarens, because in the end I think the McLarens could have got him because of all the tyres, but then at the red flag they all fitted new tyres, so it was onto zero then. And I think Gasly he was third and Sainz was on P6 or something. So that was clearly an issue, that McLaren was so far behind. Normally they could have fought back, but it was just unluck that they were so far behind, and Gasly could have just went for it. And if Gasly would have done a mistake, McLaren would be there. But he just had Stroll in front of him, so Gasly could win it and take the 25 points. But Sainz still did a very incredible job. So I think from Sainz's point of view, there was nothing he could have done better. He was quicker than Gasly. I mean, there's not much you can do more to get him. He had DRS, of course he could have tried an overtake, but also as engineers said, stay calm, don't do anything wrong, because having 18 points or 25 and want to get 25 or having 0 is a big difference. So yeah, one lap more, I think he could also got him. But yeah, it happens, and then we saw the French winner since 1996.
Yeah, it was a shame for Carlos Sainz. Next year he's going to drive for Ferrari, and arriving in Maranello with a win, the pocket would be better. But he must be happy with the P2. He doesn't have the car to win the race, so McLaren did a very good job, and of course they couldn't think about a red flag or something else, so they took out the maximum out of the race, and it's good for them.
Yeah, and also at the same, I think it was also for AlphaTauri. They couldn't foresee what's going to happen, and I also questioned their strategy a bit because they came in very early. So yeah, I think also that they came in as Magnussen was already standing there, and everybody thought, yeah, it's not going to be safety car, but in the end it was one. So I think they came in knowing something could happen like a safety car, but they haven't waited. And then the pits were closed, which was also a sign for McLaren that they should wait. And then they were I also said to you, yeah, they're just standing there and they're just waiting as long as they have to then double stack them as fast as they can. In the end, it was the wrong decision, but you couldn't foresee that. Yeah, we've talked about the situation between Magnussen and Leclerc. Leclerc, heavy crash. Luckily, he was okay after then. Of course, you're not 100% fine after such an impact, but it just showed how good these cars are. I mean, this crash was, I don't know at what speed in general, but I think it was normally at parabolic. I think that you're nearly 280, 270 kph fast for sure or a bit less. But yeah, luckily it was okay. Then the red flag came out because the barrier was just completely damaged. So the red flag was 100% a true decision. There's no doubt about it, because imagine anyone else crashing there. It would have been a clear drama, because such a crash, if the barrier is damaged, that could have ended very, very bad. So yeah, red flag. Then we also had a situation where many people were arguing about afterwards. Lance Stroll pitted during the red flag. He wasn't the only driver to do that. I think, Gasly, Sainz, Norris, they all did that and switched tires during the red flag, because it is allowed and it is legal to do that. But the difference is they have all stopped before, and Lance Stroll has just done one stop, and it was during the red flag. Lando Norris criticized it and said, yeah, it's not fair, because a pit stop is losing you 20 seconds or a bit less behind the safety car. So yeah, they've just waited, and it was their decision. But during the red flag to then pit once, I mean, I would have done the same Racing Point situation, because it wasn't forbidden. But there you really have to ask if this rule is making sense, because of course in the end, if Stroll would have came in again, maybe could have ended up outside the top 10. But Lando Norris is really the victim of it. He missed the podium due to that, clearly. So in my opinion, this rule is not making a sense, because it's not fair. Everybody is pitted, and you can just, although you haven't planned it probably, you can just pit and say like, yeah, we're not losing time, we're just changing the tires, and yeah, we'll have used 2 compounds, that's legal. It's like a loophole. They've used it. Do you agree with me that they have to close that loophole and to shut down the opportunity to pit under the red flag for your once and only time? Or what is your opinion on that?
Of course, if the rules say that you can do it, that it is allowed, they made the right decision to do that. But I agree with you. You don't usually have red flags during the race, but in case you have it like last week, I think they should change that rule, and yeah, they shouldn't give the possibility to the teams to change tires, because as Lando Norris said, it's unfair. With a pit stop you lose a huge amount of time, and if you do it under the red flag, you don't lose anything. Actually, you gain positions. So yeah, I think they should look at that rule and maybe change it, or change something. The FIA should have a look at it. Of course, yeah, Lando Norris lost the podium because Paul pitted under the red flag.
Yeah, clearly, the fact that he lost out on the podium because of that is nothing to have a doubt on. Then we also not only had a red flag situation, but a yellow flag situation and a safety car, because of Kevin Magnussen parking his car after the parabolica spot. And everybody thought like, oh yeah, it's a safe place, and everybody thought like, yeah, K-Mag, you did a good job by parking the car out of danger. I mean, of course, you have to always think that the worst can happen, that anybody can lose it at the inside of parabolica and somehow spin there. I understand that fully, but first of all, it was a good idea to park the car there. What nobody knew at that point is the rule says, or the way you have to do it says, you have to park the car at when you don't want to get a safety car or something like that out, at the marshal post, where you can also get the car out of the track. So like completely out of the track, not on the grass, but just out and back into the pits. And there were Kevin Magnussen parked. There was a marshal post, but it was no space where you can roll the car out. That is a thing that nobody thought of at this moment. So the nearest thing to get the car out was, of course, the pit lane. So the only thing they could do to get the car out was to roll it into the pit lane, get it back to the Haas guys and say, hey, you have the car with problem, but here it is. Then, of course, the pit lane was closed, which is the right decision then, because if there are marshals, so real people who have no chance against an F1 car if it comes to a collision, I mean, there is still that one clip with, I think, Sebastian Vettel clipping a guy and the guy just incredibly moving out. But that's not what you can expect. So it was just dangerous to if they said, yeah, we let the drivers in. And also, as Lewis Hamilton came in, you could see that Magnussen was still at the side, and it was a dangerous situation. So Lewis Hamilton pitted while the pit lane was closed, and got a penalty for that. And he wasn't the only one to do that. It was Antonio Giovinazzi. He got a 10-second stop and go penalty. It was shown, as I mentioned before, that the pit lane was closed. Of course, you're going at these speeds that you cannot really think about it that clearly. I mean, that's not. I think Lewis Hamilton hasn't ever had that in his career, but he was informed as early as they could have informed him. It was not the case that they informed him like 2 seconds before he was rushing into the pits and said like, no, move out, because then it's too late. I think then you wouldn't have got a penalty. But from the thing that the FIA has reported, it was avoidable, clearly, by both driver and team. So, my question is the penalty correct? Is it deserved? And what are your thoughts on that whole situation, which, of course, changed the outcome of the race massively?
I think the penalty is deserved, and as the FIA said, it was avoidable because all the other drivers, McLaren, Racing Point, they didn't pit, so I think it was avoidable. I mean, they avoided it, so they made the right decision. I don't know if they should have given him 10-second stop and go penalty or less. But you know, when you pit under the safety car, you gain a lot of time because the other drivers are going over. I think the penalty is deserved, also because the other drivers didn't pit, so it was a mistake from the team, I think, firstly, but also from Lewis Hamilton because he had in front of him the red cross, you know, the orange cross, saying him that the pit was closed and there was a dangerous situation. So I think, yeah, the penalty is deserved because other drivers didn't make the same mistake as well.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's also not about that other teams didn't do the mistake, because, of course, if someone does the mistake, it doesn't mean that, oh, yeah, I did the same mistake and you didn't get such a penalty as I did. So let's just say, yeah, let's do it. And I mean, 10-second stop and go penalty is like the worst penalty you can get. And it's very difficult because no one knew if it was the fault of the team or the fault of the driver. Because if the team fails to tell him that, he has to see the cross. If he fails to see the cross, the team has to tell him that. So it is such a question of relying onto each other.
It's
so you
difficult.
Yeah?
It's a difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you cannot just then blame either the team or the driver. You have to make a decision on blaming both. And of course, Giovinazzi got the penalty then, the 10-second stop and go penalty. And I also directly said, yeah, he got that penalty for the same thing. Lewis has to get it too. Of course, he was a bit furious to that. We saw amazing images of him on a scooter traveling to the stewards to see the images because his team had none, to really see if the penalty was deserved. I think in the end he also said that it was deserved. So the question is cleared, and I think there's nobody who says that the penalty wasn't deserved, because maybe also because some people said, yeah, I think it is better in the end because Gasly won and not Hamilton again. So yeah, it's like kind of a fan question as well. So I think we've discussed everything important about the Italian Grand Prix, which has been one of the craziest Grand Prix in the new history of F1, not because of amazing overtakes, not because of drivers going, I don't know, from the pace-wise happening crazy things, but just crazy things next to the track happening, and Kevin Magnussen bringing Pierre Gasly his win. So, Italian Grand Prix, we said everything about it, we tick it, it's done. Pierre Gasly is the winner, it's done, you cannot change it, and I think that no one wants to change that as well. We are looking forward. We are at Italy again. We are at Mugello in the near Florence. Jesus Christ. Callum also said by viewing the image behind him at the press conference where Florence was shown, oh, that's a beautiful city. And the case that he didn't even knew what city it is showed that F1 and F2 never raced there. New track, as I said, 1000th F1 Grand Prix of Ferrari. We've seen 3 practice sessions, we've seen the qualifying. Davide, what are your impressions of the track? First of all, you are an Italian, so you must be pretty pleased with F1 racing not only 2 but 3 times, as we also have Imola coming back. But I don't know if you've known that track layout of Mugello before, if you've watched other races there, but what is your impression of the track and of the things we've seen there so far?
Of course, I'm pleased to have 3 races in Italy. It's amazing. And yeah, I already knew the layout of the track. I love it. Also because MotoGP races there. And I think also the drivers love it, you know, with the downhill, with the Arrabbiata 1, Arrabbiata 2. Those corners are amazing, you know, flat out, a lot of G's forces. It's difficult to overtake, that is true, but maybe the only spot for overtaking is turn 1. But yeah, I love the layout of the track as well as the driver do. So yeah, I hope to see the track in the F1 calendar in the next years. I don't think if it's possible, but yeah, it's a lovely track in my opinion. And yeah, I really can't wait to see the race tomorrow, because I hope we'll have a lot of action like we did in Monza. So yeah, really can't wait to see the race. And what do you think? Did you already know the track, or is it the first time for you?
It was the first time for me, but I have to admit I also fell in love with it. It's like just speed, but it's not speed that you have a straight. Like for example in IndyCar, we just have 4 corners which are like just oval. But it's like just the slowest corner they go through is in 4th gear. So it's a very, very challenging track. Also Lewis Hamilton even said that, and that's a high opinion I think when it comes to that. And of course it also had the factor of it is a new track, apart from the Ferrari drivers, and some drivers before that which raced there, don't know, 10,000 years ago. No one really had it in mind. I mean, if you normally Formula 1 is like you come to the same tracks normally, year by year and year by year. You know all the procedures. You know how the tracks are. You know what you have to do at the tracks. And this is a complete new situation. We have a new track where no one was racing at before in Formula 1. So it is a great thing, I think. It would have also been the same with Zandvoort and Vietnam. Sadly, we are not going to have these races. I mean, Zandvoort, I've been there a couple of times, and there it was still the old tarmac and the old track, but it still is such an amazing track. So I kind of miss that and look forward to it in 2021. But yeah, Mugello is really in the hearts of fans and drivers, and if it's possible, I want to see that track in the next years, because as you've mentioned, it's no circuit where you can easily overtake, which I think is an issue when it comes to entertaining races. But also what we've seen in Formula 2 today, there were like, on the straight, there were like 5, 6, 7 cars fighting. Maybe we can also see that in Formula 1 with that tight midfield we have. Which was also shown up again in qualifying, how tight the midfield is at Mugello. I mean, we have Mercedes and Max Verstappen, but I think behind that is going to be very interesting. coming to Mercedes and Max Verstappen, qualifying was today. Pole for Lewis Hamilton. Very unfortunate for Valtteri Bottas that he couldn't improve on his lap time because Esteban Ocon brought out the yellow flag. So Esteban, it's James. But yeah, Hamilton on pole for the 95th time, 100th. There's no way I think that you can deny him that fact. So, the race tomorrow, what are your expectations? And are you in the state of doing predictions? I mean, after that, what we've seen at the Italian Grand Prix, I don't think that you are the Finnish guy who bet 20 cents on Gasly's Sainz Stroll and makes 33k out of it. So, what are your predictions?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not that guy. He's very lucky, of course. He's been very lucky. Yeah, it's the predictions are. I think it's pretty easy to say that the top three. I think race will end with Hamilton in P1, Verstappen in P2, and Bottas in P3. I think Verstappen will outscore Bottas once again. Then it's the thing. It becomes a little bit more difficult for the midfield. We have Charles Leclerc in P5, which is a very good performance for Ferrari. We have a look if we have a look at the past Grand Prix, in Spa and Monza. So I think I hope and I think he can perform well. Yeah, I think the midfield is very tight and it's difficult to make any predictions from the fourth of the grid to the maybe the top 10. The top three it's easy, but from the first to the 10th it's not that easy. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, top three is easy. If nothing big happens there, it will be Hamilton. I also think Verstappen will get Bottas because he looks very quick. He looks also to be able to challenge the Mercedes, which is a very good thing. He also was quicker at some points. Also in the practice sessions, he wasn't. I don't know how much fuel they were running then, but the Mercedes were on the softs and on the mediums. Verstappen was quicker, so I think it's going to be very interesting. He seems to love the track, and it's very suiting to him. And yeah, as you've mentioned, behind from P4 onwards, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, we have Albon in P4. We don't know about the pace that he has. He can have good results. He can have bad results. Either he's going to be a competitor for the podium, or he's a competitor for outside of the top 10. He had everything in the practice sessions and also in the qualifying. Then Ferrari, there's also a question mark for me because we couldn't have quite seen the real pace Ferrari had. Charles Leclerc was in P3 and P5, but no one knows if it's just because of Ferrari having unexpected pace or if it was because of Ferrari knowing the track the most. But also for the other Ferrari teams, Alfa Romeo and Haas, it was like that. We have Romain Grosjean, who was P10 in FP3, and then in qualifying he got knocked out of Q2 without any chance. And also Alfa Romeo is kind of up there. But one prediction I have the balls for to make is that I don't expect much from the Renault-powered cars. So McLaren and Renault. They were lacking of pace a bit in the FP3 and also in the qualifying. I mean, I think Ricciardo is the best positioned there, and Sainz also got through because he kicked his teammate out and is ahead of Ocon because Ocon spun. But I think they're like competitors for P8, P9, P10, but not further. So yeah, the track is not really suiting them. But if I really have to agree on a surprise, I think Pierre Gasly from P16 again. He can catch up massively because he has shown great pace in a few practice sessions. Of course, it was very unlucky that he is just starting from 16th. But you never know. Maybe he can storm through.
I agree with you about Renault and McLaren. I don't think they will have a great pace. And yeah, I was just about to ask you if Gasly could, end up at least in the top 10. So yeah, you already answered to that question, and I think that will perform very very well tomorrow, as he did in the last races as well.
Yeah, Kvyat out-qualified him for the second time this year, but I think that Gasly will get the point for the race duel. So, we have absolutely covered everything. We've covered switches, we've covered news, we've covered the last race at Italy, we've covered the upcoming race at Italy. Still crazy to say that. We still have a very interesting season to come up. We have races like Turkey coming up. Then we're going to Imola, we're going to the Nürburgring, which I personally am looking up to very much because I live very near to the track. It's under an hour I need to there. And I've been there a couple of times. It's a shame that it is without fans, as it seems like. But yeah, really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to the end of the season. In general, I think there's nobody who can really get Mercedes in trouble in terms of the championship, but the midfield is really the fight this year, as it was also last year. Yeah, do you have any things you still want to say something on, or anything you want to still comment on or give a prediction at Davide?
I think the only question is what you think about Vettel. How will he perform tomorrow? Do you have any idea about how high can he finish?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I mean, he has been the talking point for the whole week. Yeah, it's kind of weird because Charles Leclerc is up there fighting in the top 10s multiple times, and Vettel he struggled to get out of Q1. It was just like lucky in the end that he wasn't kicked out. Then he struggled in Q2 also, was slower than Kimi. I don't know if it's because of the car that is really not suiting him that well. I mean, of course it is, but we don't know to what margin, because the Ferrari is like not a car where you can demonstrate things. I feel a little bit, or what means a little bit, I feel very sorry for him, because I think he's still a very, very good driver. He had very good times. And I can imagine some saying, yeah, he was only becoming champion because of being in the best car and having like given everything. And like Max Verstappen said, 60% of the drivers can get world champions in a Mercedes. And I understand that way of thinking. But nevertheless, he still has shown great results, great racing. And also before Formula One, at his Formula One beginnings, he was a driver everyone really could just respect. So I think this season is very unfortunate for him, but I think it's just a low in his career and that he will get back up again. I mean, if I think of Michael Schumacher, for example, 1996, the first year after the Benetton success, everybody was like thinking, yeah, he's the number one driver for 2 years. But then the first year at Ferrari was a complete nightmare. So I think Sebastian is exactly in that situation. It's good for him to think that he knows that he's safe for next year. And I also think that, especially also from the media point of view, they should not just look onto Vettel and Ferrari and say like, yeah, this is going much worse and much worse and much worse, and he's performing bad and bad and bad, because it's also not the best thing for him. I can't really say where he will finish, but I kind of have the feeling that it won't be in the top 10. So yeah, giving over to you. Your question to yourself. What do you think will Seb finish?
Yeah, the car is not helping Sebastian this year and also in 2019. He's struggling in during these years of his career. Yeah, it's difficult to say where he will finish tomorrow. I hope in the top 10, but I actually have to agree with you. I think he will finish out of the top 10 unless something weird happens to the car in front. Actually, in front of Kimi Raikkonen would be good. You know, he's driving Raikkonen is driving an Alfa Romeo. Sebastian is driving a Ferrari. So the minimum that he can do is getting Raikkonen and finishing in front of him. Okay, I don't expect much from him. And yeah, we also have to see if Ferrari has the pace, because actually even Charles can drop, finish lower than than P5. So yeah, we'll have to see what the race will bring tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. No one will know what will happen tomorrow, except for maybe the top three. But yeah, let's see what will happen tomorrow or today. I don't know when the top podcast is coming out. Haven't planned to edit it too much, just to keep it in a very human way, just to keep it like a natural conversation. You're not just cutting out every speaking mistake you make in real life, and also we are like not British or American people. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, I think just give a thumbs up. That would help us a lot. If you've watched it until here, type hashtag Vettel10. Just a random hashtag. So
maybe it will help him. Maybe in the race.
yeah, maybe it's giving him the crystal balls he has searched for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Stayed
think
until the end. Hashtag Vettel10.
yeah, I think he has that sense of humor after what we've seen at Monza, that he was just standing there at Parabolica and saying like, oh, he didn't hit the apex. He did not hit the apex again. That was just incredible to see that. So yeah, hashtag Vettel10 if you've watched until here. That would be very, very impressive. Yeah, also every feedback, every opinion onto what we've discussed here is welcomed. We're always open to discuss with you guys, because discussing about Formula One is just the best thing to do. If you haven't, go follow us on Instagram to be up to date with every news we are having in the Formula One world and also from abroad. And yeah, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. I don't know if future podcasts are coming, because it's always a long time question. And also, for example, like when we watch into the Belgian Grand Prix, I don't think that we could have talked about it so long like we could have talked about the Italian ones. So yeah, I try to, and also Pekos, we try to do it as often as possible. And if we can, we are going to do this. Also, so with the rest of the content. Then I would say huge thank you to Davide also for having the time, for speaking with me about so many topics. You've done a great job, and I think that this conversation was really one I will enjoy listening to. So thanks a lot to you.
It's been a pleasure, actually. Thank you for hosting me. Yeah, really enjoyed it. So I hope we'll have more podcasts.
Yeah, I think that will also be the case in the future for sure. So I would say it is already a long podcast, nearly 1.5 hours, but it's one full of content, full of every opinion, full of everything. So if you've enjoyed it, just share it with your friends. Even if they are not motorsport addicted, then they will be for sure, because after the Italian Grand Prix, everybody has to be. So yeah, I think it's thanks for watching, hearing everything, and from my side, it is goodbye, and I give over to Davide for the last words of this podcast.
Yeah, so thank you to everyone that listened to this podcast. And yeah, as Max said, leave a like and a comment, and we'll see you the next podcast. So thank you, everyone, and thank you again to you, Max.
Yeah, thanks also to you, Davide, and then I would say it is a warm goodbye, and hopefully we will see a good race at Mugello. We're going to have the option to do a podcast about. Goodbye, guys, and see ya.
Bye.